Do you prepare for interviews like this? Okay, time to study. Let's Google common interview questions. Okay. Tell me about yourself. All right, well, I have 10 years of experience and I'm a highly motivated and results-oriented leader. Yeah, I think that sounds good. Okay, next question. That is exactly why you are getting rejected from your job interviews. This is the most competitive job market that we have seen in years, and I see tons of comments from people saying that they're giving the same exact interview answers that they used to give in 2021, but they're not getting any job offers. What is going on? Well, because a lot of jobs are remote right now, and a lot of the top companies in every single industry have been doing layoffs, the competition is so high. When you're applying for remote roles, you're not only competing with the people and candidates in your area, but you're also competing with the entire country and sometimes the entire world. And now that companies like Google and Meta and Amazon are all doing layoffs, you're also competing with the best of the best. And so your old interview answers that you used to give, which were just fine or average back in 2020 and 2021, are not going to work in a competitive job market anymore. And so you need to know how to actually prepare for interviews, study, and make your answers better. Remember, just being a fit is not enough to get you hired, and you need to be able to stand out. So in this video, I'm going to show you exactly how to prepare for job interviews and actually get better at interviewing. And step number one is to make sure that you're actually practicing relevant questions that you're going to be getting for the job itself. And so what I recommend is actually taking the URL or just copying all of the text from the job description itself online and then going to Google Gemini or ChatGPT and then pasting in that job description and asking it to predict the interview questions based on that job description. Now, I tried it with both ChatGPT and Google Gemini, and I actually think the practice questions from Google Gemini are better because not only do they give you practice questions about the role itself and the technical skills, but it also analyzes the company for the job description, and it'll ask you some culture-based and company-based questions as well that you can practice. And of course, you can also just Google common interview questions for whatever job it is that you're applying for, but I do recommend starting with the questions generated by ChatGPT and Gemini because it's going to be tailored for that specific company and exactly what they are looking for, because not every single company is hiring for the exact same type of technical recruiter, for example. So now that you know what interview questions to actually practice, now I'm going to teach you how to actually practice and get better at interviewing and figuring out how to improve your answers over time. So what you're going to need are the Amazon boxes from all of your Black Friday shopping as well as your smartphone. Go ahead and set them up so that your phone is around eye level. This is to make sure that you're practicing good eye contact for both in-person and Zoom interviews, because you want to get comfortable with good posture, sitting up straight, not constantly looking down if your phone is on the ground. And if you're practicing for an in-person interview, you want to make sure you have good eye contact with your interviewer. Also, make sure that you have airplane mode turned on so you're not going to get any distractions while you're practicing and get ADHD. Then go to your camera app, turn it on video mode, and flip the camera around so it's on selfie. Yes, you are going to have to record yourself answering interview questions, but don't worry, no one's going to watch this video except for you. And you can even delete the video after you're done practicing, so no one is even going to know that it existed. Now, this next part is optional, but I do recommend that you dress the part. And that's because you want to make sure you feel comfortable and confident when you're actually doing your interview. And so one thing I noticed for me is that when I'm wearing the suit, one of my nervous tics used to be constantly adjusting my collar as if it was making my neck really itchy, even though it was totally fine and my suit fits great. And so now that I've practiced a lot more in my suit, I felt more comfortable when it came time to actually do my interview the day of. Okay, so now that you have all the right questions that you need to practice and you have your phone set up properly, you're going to choose 2 of the questions that ChatGPT told you to practice. You're going to turn on the camera and you're going to record yourself answering both of those questions without stopping the recording, no matter what. It's okay if you screw up. It's okay if you don't have the full, correct, finalized answer yet. No problem. This is just a starting point. I want you to start with 2 questions back to back without stopping because I want you to see what your body language looks like first. So go ahead and go to the recording, push mute, and I just want you to focus on your body language and see what you are doing and what some of your habits are. For me, I actually know that I bounce my knee when I get really nervous. And the other thing that I notice that I do is whenever I'm thinking about something really hard, I'll actually break eye contact and either look up or look down, which normally is not a problem if you're doing an in-person interview, but if you're doing a Zoom interview, anytime you break eye contact with your camera, the interviewer might think that you're reading your notes or cheating in some way, and you don't want to give them that impression. You want to come across as confident. Okay, so now after you've analyzed your body language and some of your bad habits that you need to break when you were doing those 2 interview questions, the next thing you want to do is look at the length of your video and see how long your answers are for each of the different questions. Make sure your answers aren't too short, which means you're probably not giving enough information or detail about how you solve the problem and why you solve the problem, which lets you show off your technical skills. Or if your answers are too long, it means you're giving irrelevant information or you're sharing too much context that takes away time from showing your actual skill set. As a general rule of thumb, for behavioral interview questions, you want the time limit to be somewhere between 3 and 5 minutes long. For hypothetical questions, if you want a thorough answer, your answer should be between 4 and 6 minutes. For all other types of interview questions, you kind of want them to be around 1.5 to 2.5 minutes long. Okay, so far we've looked at your body language to see what you need to work on and improve. Then we've looked at the duration of your answers to see if you need to add more detail or take away certain information to make it shorter. And now we're going to listen to what you're actually saying so you can improve the content of your answers. To do this, I want you to unmute the video and then turn the camera face down, so all you're listening to is your own audio. When you're listening to the audio of your video, there's a few things that I want you to be super critical of. Number 1 is your word choice. Are you sharing unnecessary information, or are you talking in circles? Listen to see if you sound like, for example, this reminds me of a time where I was asked by my manager to go ahead and do something. Instead, you should say something like, because I noticed there was a lack of sales growth year over year, I decided that I needed to. The second thing you want to listen for is if your answer is easy to follow. Are you making the situation or the context of what's happening really clear? Are you giving enough details to show how and why you solved the problem, which is going to let them know that you're good at your job? If you're listening to your answer and it's actually not that easy to follow, or it seems like you have good ideas but you're constantly jumping around, what you need to do is go ahead and restructure your answer. So if you're answering a behavioral interview question, like something that starts with tell me about a time or give me an example of, or anytime you need to talk about something you've done in the past by telling a story, make sure you're using the STAR method. Or if you're practicing a hypothetical question and you realize that you have good ideas, but you're kind of all over the place and it's not really easy to follow, and you sound disorganized, then you're going to want to structure your answer either by steps or by key themes or ideas to make it easier for your interview to follow along. If you're finding that your overall answer is too short, what you probably need to do is give a little bit more context to make the problem seem more difficult so you look better when you solve it. And you probably want to give more information as it relates to the actions that you took, or the how and the why you came up with a certain solution, or other solutions that you considered but decided not to use, because this is going to show them that you can solve problems multiple different ways. Is the ending of your story or your result a really good and unique one, or is it the same result that every other candidate who does the same job as you is also going to have? If you're finding that the ending or the result of your story is not that unique or not that memorable or is really predictable, you're going to want to find ways to stand out using either scalability, complexity, or creativity. For example, if you end your answer by saying, and that is how I exceeded my sales quota. Lame. That ending is not only predictable, but every other salesperson that you're interviewing against is also going to say that they exceeded their quota. So you should try an ending something like, so not only was I able to exceed my quota, but I actually learned a lot of new things about the product, which I then took to update our product training, and I led a new training that quarter for the entire sales team. And I tracked our metrics in the following quarter, and I noticed that not only was I able to exceed my quota, but the overall performance of our sales team increased by 15%, which had never been done before, thanks to my new training. And that's how you should be analyzing your actual answers and the words that you're saying, because you're saying them out loud now, which allows you to actually be critical of yourself and figure out what you're doing wrong. Next is a really important step. You should now go ahead and update your notes for your interview answers now that you know what you did wrong and how you should actually improve it by going through all the questions that I've covered in the video so far. Yes, I do recommend that you actually write out your interview answers. Like, this is the notepad where I have all of my answers for all of these interview questions. And I don't think you need to write it out word for word, because then that's way too much. And you can even type it on your computer if you would like. But you could go with the bullets format. You don't have to write it exactly word for word. But the reason why it's good to have it written out here is because you can't make them better and improve your answers without knowing what your actual answers are today, unless you have photographic memory, which many of us don't have. And then you're going to rinse and repeat this process for all of the different interview questions that ChatGPT and Google Gemini gave you. Now, as a bonus tip for staying in the video this long, the other thing that you need to do is after every single interview that you do, go back to your notes document and write down all the interview questions that you got asked in that interview today, and then write down what your answers were that you gave at the time. Then track your results and see if you moved forward to the next round or if you got rejected. If you got rejected, then that should tell you that your answers in their current state are not good enough. And go back through this video again, ask those questions about the content, about the words that you are saying. Because a lot of companies do not give feedback these days because they don't want to be sued, this is the best way to figure out what questions you are answering correctly and what answers need to be improved. And by watching this video, you now know how to actually make your answers better. So let us know down in the comments what other videos you want to see that'll help you get better at your interviews so you can get more job offers. Thank you all for watching the video so far, and don't be afraid to shake things up.